Capitalism, everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, change, it's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. Is to believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult building his own world. Gnostic sex cult unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
What up, Gnostic cultists? How's it going? I just had the word, like, you guys should have just seen what, like, literally just, I just had an avalanche of something fall off my desk. It was crazy. Anyway, we're here. We made it. Welcome to Thursday, guys. Some might think it's 5 o'clock on Thursday, and so we don't need to welcome anyone to Thursday at 5 o'clock, but welcome. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or roughly thereabouts, where we talk about really whatever I want to talk about. We talk about we do deep dives into the far left. Sometimes we do deep dives into the far right. Sometimes we complain about James Lindsay lying to millions and millions and millions of people. And guess what? I did actually have a James update today, because earlier today, James gave us a shout out in a Twitter thread that he wrote, and we are going to read this Twitter thread before we get into our main show. But guess what? Literally right before I went live, James tweeted about me, calling me an abusive psychopath. You know, James Lindsay and I have very, 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 very different definitions of the word abuse. We have very different definitions of the word abuse. I think that it's abusive of James to lie to millions and millions of people to try to fool them into believing that there is a Gnostic sex cult that's coming for their children, led by Oprah and the WEF and the UN. I think that's pretty abusive, because that's not real. James made all that up just to feed his own ego and, quite frankly, his issues with his parents, who made him a Catholic and he didn't want to be a Catholic, and now James is an atheist, and James has been getting harangued by the Catholics because he said that Archangel Michael was the devil or something. Also, I think that's pretty abusive too. I also think it's pretty abusive to try to gaslight people in a religion to believe that the spiritual figures in their religion are really Satan and part of a Gnostic cult ritual. I personally think that's very abusive. But what did I do? I told someone the truth. I told someone the truth in my usual blunt way. James is calling me a bully for telling someone the truth. James is saying I'm an abusive psychopath for telling someone the truth. Because listen, here's what happened. There were a couple of us in conversation with this angry Alaskan guy for a little while on Twitter. And then this angry Alaskan guy, like, he claimed to be a supporter of my work. And listen, man, listen. I know the difference between people who actually support my work and people who just claim to support my work when they're trying to gaslight me to get me to agree with something. This happens all the time. People on the internet are awful. I have people coming into my comments on my streams or on my Instagram, like, all the damn time, who I have never heard from before, who I've never seen in the chat, never seen comment, certainly have never gotten a donation from them. And they say things like, Carlin, I've always been a supporter of your work, and I've supported your work for years, but I just don't understand why you are voting for Donald Trump, and I'm going to have to withdraw my support and unsubscribe. And I'm like, you never supported my work. Or they come into my feed, they're like, I just don't understand why you refuse to say that Kamala Harris is a communist. I'm going to have to unsubscribe from you. I'm like, bro. Can we be real for a second? Can we hinge back into reality for a second? If you believe that Kamala Harris is a communist, you have never supported my work. You have never watched my work. You've never listened to my work. You've never learned anything from my work. You certainly haven't donated to my work. But you want to gaslight me into believing that you're a supporter? No, declined. And so that's basically what this guy was doing over the course of like several replies. He was like, I was supporting your work and this interaction is so disheartening and I've been a supporter of yours for years. And never heard from this guy before. Literally never. And so I said, you don't support my work. Supporting my work means you show up and learn. I don't actually think that's abusive. I think that's just telling the truth. And then I responded to this guy. Basically, I didn't even read all this. I'm not going to read a several paragraph response because a several paragraph response on Twitter is literally just someone working out their feelings, okay? Their feelings are not my responsibility. I'm sorry. I may be a psychologist, but I'm not your psychologist. You're not paying me to tend to your mental health, okay? Therefore, your feelings are not my responsibility. So I basically said, if you support my work, then show up and learn from it. And of course, what did he say? Because he's a typical conservative. What did he say? I have a job! We have jobs! I can't be bothered to learn because we have jobs. As though no one but conservatives have a job. As though no one but conservatives have any sort of other obligations in their life. They are the only ones who are burdened with a job. And so I basically saw the typical, we have jobs. I saw that line and I said to him, cool. So you're going to lose and your children will be the ones who suffer. And when that happens, I want you to look in the mirror and know that it was entirely your fault. And I'm sorry. I do not apologize. I will absolutely not apologize to lazy-ass conservatives who refuse to understand the enemy that they're fighting, who want everyone else to do their work for them, who refuse to listen, who refuse to watch video clips that are only a couple minutes long, who just live in the world of outrage and hysteria all day. I am sorry. These people are the reason that we are losing. These people are the reason we're losing. These people are the reason that the left is operating completely unopposed in this country. And so, yes, when the Marxist takeover does happen, and it will absolutely happen in the lifetime of this person's children, I promise you. I think it'll happen in my lifetime. I absolutely think it'll happen in the lifetime of this guy's children. When the Marxist takeover happens, we will all suffer. His children are going to suffer. Your children are going to suffer. I want everyone to understand the severity of what we are dealing with here. This is not an unimportant thing. People ask me all the time, why should I learn socialist? Why should I learn socialist? Why should I learn socialist? You know why you should learn it? Because if you don't, the left is going to run away with this. It's not even going to be close. And your children are going to suffer as a result. Don't tell me you care about protecting children if you don't bother to understand the greatest threat that exists towards your children and, quite frankly, your parental rights in this country right now. Don't lie. Because when we lose, and it is a matter of when at this point, because not enough people care to solve this problem, it will be everyone's kids that suffer the most. Like, we'll suffer, but I'm older. I'll suffer less. It will be the younger people who suffer far more than we do. They're the ones that are going to be starving. And I'm not going to pussyfoot around this to protect some snowflake conservatives' feelings. When we lose, it will be their fault. When we lose, it will be because they didn't bother to do anything about it. And someone needs to be truthful to them, and someone needs to start telling them that. And if James wants to pretend that I'm an abusive psychopath for telling people the truth, when he's out there having emotional breakdowns on Twitter over Archangel Michael and lying to people about a Gnostic sex cult that doesn't exist at all in any way, I'm sorry, what James is doing is way more abusive than what I'm doing. I'm trying to wake people up to smack them in the head and say, what the fuck are you doing? We have jobs, though. Oh, yeah? Do you want your kids to starve in the Marxist utopia? Is that what you want? But we have jobs. Okay, well, pick. What's more important to you? Do you want your kids to starve, or do you want to hold on to this notion that you are not required to do anything of substance to fight back against this cultural revolution that you all allowed to happen? Choose. You're telling me you can't spend a couple hours a week listening? And not even a couple hours. You're telling me you can't watch a 5-minute video clip to listen to what the left is saying? And that I'm abusive for demanding you watch a 5-minute video clip? Bro, you think I'm abusive? Just wait until the people that are going to be running the Marxist utopia get put in charge. You think I don't care about your feelings? I promise you, they're going to care about your feelings a whole lot less than I do. But there's a reason that James did this today. And we've got a much better show planned than James, guys. We're going to be listening to some Antifa content today. We're going to dig deep into some hardcore Antifa content today, and it's going to be great. But you need to allow me this point of personal privilege, because I just got called an abusive psychopath on the internet to 500,000 people. And so I'm going to take this point of personal privilege. I'm going to say what I want to say, and then we're going to do Antifa after that. There's a reason James is doing this today. Because earlier today, James posted a Twitter thread in which he gave us a shout out. We're going to read that Twitter thread. And, you know, maybe some of my supporters on Twitter were going into the replies on James's Twitter thread and posting my stuff all over the place. In fact, we can look. I have sock accounts too, James. It's not just you with a sock account, bro. I've got sock. Look at this fucking thread. I don't know if we're going to read the whole thing. But we've got some people in the replies posting my stuff. James isn't going to like that. I don't know where all the posts are. I guess we'll have to kind of like do a little guessing where the posts are. But there have been people that have been going into the responses on these posts and just responding to people saying, listen to Carlin, listen to Carlin, listen to Carlin. I guess I'm not going to be able to find it. There's too many responses to go through. We're not going to do all that. So James is a little bit annoyed at us. James is pissed off that we're reaching out to his audience and saying, you know what? There are other options that are not James. Come with us. We will show you the light. We will show you what the real left is saying. We will show you what's going on. James pissed off about that. And so James is having a little emotional moment in which he's calling me an abusive psychopath because he's pissed off about that. That's what's going on. I hope everyone understands that. So let's just take a look at what he had to say in this thread. If you want to understand why communists always end up killing so many people, aside from the fact that it's a personality disorder turned into a religion that takes over politics, you have to understand it as a fanatical religion that demands a qualitative change in humanity. Oh, we are starting off on fire, aren't we? This has 100,000 views, this thread. 100,000 views. Lots of people apparently just want me to say capitalism, James. Hey, shout out. Shout out for us. That's for us. Meaning they want me to admit that communists hate private property and want to abolish it, which I have pointed out, of course, hundreds of times with citation, including Chapter 2 of the Communist Manifesto. That's actually not exactly what we want James to do, to be clear. What we have been saying to James is we want him to explicitly define what they mean when they say private property, which James has not done ever. And even more specifically than that, we want him to tell his audience that queer is not a Gnostic sex cult like he keeps advancing on Twitter, that queer is an attack on capitalism, which is an attack on the gender binary and the nuclear family, specifically because they believe that parental rights are a form of private property under capitalism, and therefore, because parental rights are a form of private property under capitalism, they need to abolish parental rights. This is where all the attacks on parental rights comes from, and this is the basis of queer theory. When queer theorists say normativity, they mean the norms that uphold capitalism. Anything that does not uphold capitalism is not considered to be normativity. When they say another way they might say this is the norms that uphold the gender binary. They believe the gender binary was created by capitalism, put men in the workplace, women in the home, doing the unpaid labor of raising the next generation of proletarian workers in the nuclear family, which is the literal means of reproduction for capitalism, due to social reproduction theory, which states that social systems will reproduce themselves until they are disrupted. They literally call it the capitalist nuclear family or the Fordist nuclear family. That is what they're trying to disrupt, and that is what we have been demanding that James Lindsay tell his audience for over a year. For those of you who just got to James Lindsay's bullshit, I've been calling him out on this for over a year. But welcome. We have a lot of new James haters in the house due to all the Catholic and Christian stuff. We welcome everyone. When you wake up to the fact that James Lindsay has just made up a monumental set of lies that he has sold to people via Moms for Liberty and Turning Point USA, we're all on the same team. We can all play this game together. Anyway, back to James's thread. Not that one, that one. Karl Marx himself was abundantly clear that's not what communism is properly about. Even though you're telling me, James, you're telling me that Karl Marx doesn't believe that communism is about the abolition of private property and that it's some Gnostic fucking religion? Oh my, is he seriously making this argument? Karl Marx himself was abundantly clear that's not what communism is properly about, though, even though he wrote in the Communist Manifesto, Chapter 2, communism can be summed up in a single sentence: abolition of private property. Marx, here we go. Marx actually meant for private property to be transcended. Do you have any receipts on that, James? In his Economic Philosophical Manuscripts, 1844, Marx explains the difference between lowly and trash crude communism and his vision of communism, which is the positive transcendence of private property as human self-entanglement. He's pretty harsh on the crude communism too. Well, a couple points here, James. Number one, I don't actually fucking care what Karl Marx said, because we don't base our ideas off of Karl Marx. We base our ideas based on what real world activists are saying in the real world today. That's always been the basis for my work. I've always made it abundantly clear. I don't read the philosophy of dead people. What I do is I look at what real communists and real Marxists are teaching in the real world today, because that is reflective of what they believe. Karl Marx could have written any number of things that real Marxists and real communists and real socialists do not teach in the world today. Like Karl Marx could have written a letter to, some girl he had a crush on saying, I want to kill all the Jews or something like that. I'm just making that up. But that doesn't mean that's what real communists and Marxists are teaching in the world today. They're actually not teaching that in the world today, contrary to what James probably thinks. But do you guys understand what I'm saying? What Marx wrote in 1844 has no bearing on what real activists are doing in the real world right now. There are certain aspects of Marx that they're very influenced by. There are other aspects that they ignore entirely. James wants to pretend that the things they ignore entirely are proof of the Gnostic sex cult. Because that's how he makes money. That's how he makes money. Everyone understand? Crude communism has been tried during the French Revolution and sloppy and miserable. Similarly, other experiments have done and failed, including various socialist utopian communes. Marx was criticizing these vigorously. Marx was quite clear that crude communism fails to appreciate the good in life and that it can't even start to transcend private property because it doesn't even have private property to transcend. Wait. So you're telling me that Marx doesn't believe the abolition of private property is good? Because that takes away the ability to transcend private property? No, James, you've completely misunderstood that, bro. I'm sorry, that's just not real. Marx identified the characteristics of crude communism to be the hatred of private property and believed it engaged in coarse methods of abolishing, in that it failed the dialectical sublation transcendence required to have true communism with a good life intact. James, you still haven't defined what they mean by private property, bro. How can he do this and pretend to be intellectually honest when he's not even defining his terms correctly? I don't need to keep going down this tangent now, but the point to be made from it is that Marx believes something fundamentally different than merely abolishing private property and capitalism. He wanted to positively transcend them, which is the religious transformation of man. Hey, James, do you know who else wanted to do that? Che Guevara. What that means is just showing up and doing the things for the moral good of doing them. We learned that yesterday when we watched 2 documentaries about Che Guevara. It was actually really interesting. Che Guevara felt that people didn't need external incentives. They needed to be taught to view communism as a moral good, to show up and do work because it was the moral, righteous thing to do. Not because you got outside incentives, not because you got more stuff from doing it, but because you got that intrinsic motivation to do it because that made you a good comrade. And that's why the people love Che Guevara, because he showed up and he did all this other work. He did menial work. He was like unloading, boats, and he was like making uniforms and stuff like that. This is a very high ranking person. And he just showed up to work with the average people because it was a moral good. And he was trying to demonstrate himself as the perfect kind of like walking poster boy of what it meant to be a good communist. I'll bet you all the money in my bank account that's actually what Marx is referring to here, which James doesn't understand because he's so keyed off about the Gnostic bullshit that he has to make everything fit into that framework. Later Marxists, including Marcuse, described what it was meant to have a qualitative change in man overall that adapts a new sensibility geared towards socialism through a fundamental transformation of one's vital needs at a biological level. The qualitative change is what Marx meant by positive transcendence. Human beings don't need to hate or abolish private... You're actually telling me this is just wrong. I'm sorry. James is literally arguing that communists don't call for the abolition of private property because they don't think they need to. Press 1 in the chat if you agree with James that communists do not call for the abolition of private property because they need to rise above the abolition of private property to properly transcend it. Press 2 in the chat if you think James is full of shit. One in the chat if you believe that Marxists and communists don't actually call for the abolition of private property, because that's just crude communism, and what they're calling for is the ability to transcend private property. Press 2 in the chat if you think James is full of shit. Look at all those 2s. 2, 2, 2, 2. We're not buying it, James. You're so full of shit, James. You're so full of shit. It's not even funny how full of shit you are, bro. Like, that's a lot of bullshit right there, James. That's like a lot of bullshit. I mean, come on. Come on. Has James ever actually listened to any communist training in real life? I think James is an all-around dumbass. Yep. 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 No, not buying it, bro. That is why Marx is clear in the Communist Manifesto before and after he discusses communism being summoned as abolition of private property, that he's talking about bourgeois private property! Specifically, which is imbued particularly with the fundamental right to exclude. Hey guys, pop quiz for the chat. What does bourgeois private property mean? James is falling into the average trap of the communist, isn't he? Guys, you know what James is doing? James is literally doing. They don't want to abolish personal property. They just want to abolish bourgeois property. This is literally what James is doing. Guys, don't worry. Karl Marx didn't want to abolish personal property. He just wants to abolish bourgeois property. What does bourgeois property mean? No one's getting it so far. Come on. Come on, I need everyone to get this. This is an easy one, guys. Your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, rent as a landlord, intellectual property, parental rights are considered to be a form of bourgeois property. Your house, your car, your land, your everything, exactly. Westcott! In with the win, in with the win. Bourgeois property is property that can be used to generate wealth. Your home, which you can resell to make money. Your land. An apartment rental that you rent out as a landlord. Money. Your intellectual property. Money. Your private business. Money. Your parental rights. Let's think about this one for a second. How can parental rights make you money? Because of generational wealth. Parental rights mean that you can pass property from father to son to keep the property privatized within the family, which leads to generational wealth created, which leads to disparities in outcomes, which can only be remedied by abolishing capitalism. That is what they mean by bourgeois property, James. Why aren't you explaining that to your audience? Is it possible that James doesn't understand what the fuck he's talking about? Yeah, and of course your individual liberties, your individual rights, your freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all that stuff can be utilized to generate. That's actually more of like an abstract concept. They don't talk about that one that much, but that is certainly under bourgeois property. Because individualism upholds capitalism. You cannot have capitalism without having individualism and meritocracy. P.S. You might notice the current woke left is obsessed with inclusion. Well, not so much as other things. You might also notice the globalists talk endlessly about the need to make capitalism more inclusive to all, so participate, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This is supposed to be a thread about why communists murder so many damn people. All right, James has gone off on a tangent. I'm not reading the rest of this because the whole first part of that thread, listen, guys, we need to give ourselves a pat on the back. The entire first half of that thread was a response to us. The entire first part of that thread was James being completely dismissive of every idea that I have. Saying, oh, you silly people, you're just doing crude communism. I am doing the more advanced Gnostic communism. But those silly people, we need to explain why those silly people are wrong. Yeah, and isn't it funny how James has 0 receipts? So the entire first part of this thread was a response to us. I want everyone to give themselves a high five. We did that. And we're going to keep doing that, James. Don't think this is over yet. And James, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Because you're not the first person on the internet to call me crazy. In fact, James is literally working with the people who originally called me crazy. Because that's the kind of guy that James is. If James doesn't like you, he will seek out gossip mongers and stalkers on the internet to get dirt from them. But I'm going to give you some advice, James. Calling me crazy and stalking me and trying to discredit me for years on end, it didn't work out so well for the first group of people who were doing it. Because now most of them are irrelevant. And I just kept going, bro. I just kept going. And so if you want to keep going, if you want to call me a narcissistic psychopath or whatever you're calling me today, I don't really care, bro. You want to know why? James, every time you mention me, I know I'm winning. Every time you mention me, asshole, I know I'm winning. And what that means for us is we need to double down. We are not slowing down. Absolutely not. Is the goal to get him to shut up or to get him to see the light? Originally, it was to get him to see the light. I would still sincerely love it if James Lindsay would finally see the light and stop acting like an unhinged retard on the internet. I think that would be best case scenario. However, James has now announced to the public that he's not going to be teaching people about the left anymore. And so if I have to choose between James spewing bullshit to millions of people or James going quietly into that good night, I'm going to choose him shutting up. Now, I don't want that. What I have always wanted is for James to accurately teach his audience what is going on, which he is not doing because he is unhinged from reality. But if he's going to keep lying to millions and millions of people, then we are going to tell people that he is lying to millions and millions of people. And guess what? We're going to show receipts that James is not showing. So that's our James update for the day. In other news, check this out. Laura Logan retweeted our stuff from the Denver Communists. And she said, this idiot said the quiet part out loud. They intend to get rid of the Constitution and attack American patriotism. So when you see attacks on patriots' nationalism and patriotism, now you can see the Marxist doctrine. Thank you, Laura Logan, for retweeting this. And then guess what? Then I responded to Laura Logan and I said, hi, Laura Logan. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing this thread. Did you know that this group was caught saying they were going to violently overthrow the government like a week ago? And then Laura Logan retweeted that too. And this is great because Laura Logan has almost 1 million followers. And so guys, this is proof that our Twitter campaign is working. We are only like 2 days, 3 days into this Twitter campaign. And it's working. When we started this Twitter campaign, this video had 12,000 views. And then we started gaming the algorithm by doing what? What do we do in our Twitter campaign? Put the 5 things in the chat for me that we do. Every time I post a clip like this on Twitter, what are you going to do? There's 5 things. Let me know in the chat what they are. When we started our Twitter campaign, this video had 12,000 views. You know, that's a lot of people. What does this video have today? Almost 100,000 views. And that is entirely because we are all working together. Every time I post a video like this, we are all working together to game the algorithm. How are we gaming the algorithm? By bookmarking, by liking, retweeting, quote tweeting, and replying. Every time I post something like this, what I need you guys to do is bookmark, reply, like, quote tweet, retweet. Like, quote tweet, repost, bookmark, reply. The bookmark is the most important. You've got to do the bookmark. The bookmark has the biggest boost for the algorithm. Bookmark, repost, quote, comment. Like it too. Bookmark, like, repost, retweet, comment. Exactly. And this is how we're gaming the algorithm, guys. And anyone can do this. It does not matter how many followers you have. If you have a brand new Twitter account, some people have created brand new Twitter accounts for this. If you have a brand new Twitter account, this is not about your follower count. This is about doing what's required to tell Twitter, this tweet is something interesting that people want to see. And when you guys bookmark, like, retweet, quote tweet, and then reply, what Twitter thinks is, wow, a lot of people really want to see this content. And then And then they start sharing that content with more people. And that's how we got in front of Laura Logan. Laura Logan does follow me. She's followed me for a long time. But that doesn't mean Twitter's going to show her every single tweet that I send. But apparently Twitter showed her this one several days after I posted it, and now it's gone out to 1 million people in her feed, and it has just jumped the number of views dramatically. This is why we do this, guys, and consistency is key. Consistency is going to be key with this. You got to show up. We have a DM group that you can join. I have my Unwoke Army group. You guys can follow me, turn on notifications. If you want a list of things you can do to help us out, head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, and read this article right here. I need your help to expose, what did I title this? The agenda of the far left, and that is going to give you a list of things that you can do. Bookmark, like, repost, quote tweet, leave a reply. It's going to give you some groups you can join to come and join us in coordinating it. It's going to give you other accounts that are posting my stuff, like Far Left Clips run by Reagan, like Bot Update, or like Carlin Updates run by Bot. And so we are gaming the shit out of this every single time, not just this one time, every time, because if James Lindsay is going to act like an unhinged psycho, and he's going to stop teaching his audience what the left is doing, we got to get a way to get this content out there. We have to have a way to get more people to see this content. So if you have questions about this, then I need you to go read this post. And I need you to do everything in this post. And that'll be the most effective thing you can do. And once we get good at this, we will start doing other things. But that is the thing we need to get good at right now. That is what we're working on. Okay, guys? Last thing before we jump into our Antifa content for today, check this out. Check this out. We started getting some posts. Well, Judy posted it anyway. Judy, always the early adopter, has gotten both her Marx anti-communist t-shirt that says everyone is equal until they're not. But she's also got that yard sign. Look at this. The first Marxism is evil yard sign showing up in the wild. How cool is that? Has anyone else in the chat gotten their yard sign yet? If you haven't gotten the yard sign yet, you can head over to unwokeart.com. It's right on the homepage. This is my merchandise store. Here you go. Put it in the chat on YouTube, in the chat on Rumble. And what you want to do is scroll down. And there it is, right there. The beautiful, the new Marxism is evil yard sign, just in time for Halloween, just in time for the elections. It should become a staple in your yard all year long. It's printed on both sides, so you can put it like you can put it in and people will see it from both sides. Judy says, my neighbor is going to see one show up in her yard too, because Judy ordered two. Isn't that nice? Sharing is caring when it comes to yard signs, guys. So that is available in the Unwoke Art Store along with my limited edition Halloween anti-communist collection. You can head over there, check things out. All purchases in the store do go to support the work I'm doing, and I really, really appreciate it. That sign would make a good sticker. That's a good idea, Bot. I'm going to do that. Good idea. We can definitely do that. All right, let's get into what we're talking about today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Is anyone new in my chat today? Is anyone new? Has anyone not been here before? If so, welcome. That was a hearty introduction. We're going to be getting into Antifa content now. So, CrimeThink is an anarchist group that publishes a lot of stuff. And one time, like probably about a year ago, when I started getting into like the Unwoke zine stuff, maybe it was a little sooner than that. I forget exactly. I sent a DM to Andy No. So Andy No, of course, is like the expert on Antifa. Now, guys, Antifa are all communists. Antifa are anarcho-communists. Not all communists and socialists are Antifa, but all Antifa are communists and socialists. And so Andy No has a really narrow specialty in Antifa. I do more broad stuff because I generally do I don't follow Antifa as closely as Andy does, mostly because Andy's doing it, so I don't have to do it. Like, there's already someone doing that. I follow a lot of the other activists that are not Antifa. That's not to say I don't think Antifa is important. It's just to say that Andy knows already doing it. But I sent Andy Ngo a DM a little while back, and I said, Andy, are there organizations that are publishing Antifa content, like in the form of zines and manifestos and books and that sort of stuff? And Andy No replied, he's like, Crime Think. You need to look up Crime Think. I was like, all right. So looked up Crime Think and started digging into some of their stuff. Never really got to go too far into it, but always had it in the back of my head to come back to. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching some stuff from Crime Think. And I've got 3 things pulled up. Actually, I've got 4. I don't know that we're going to get to all of them today. So these are manifestos, guys. This is actually in the form of a zine. So you can see they've got links to download it on their site, if you want to look at that. So we have audio versions of these documents, okay? So I've got this one, To Change Everything by Crime Think. To Change Everything is a full 48-page booklet. In fresh, accessible language, it explores the virtues of self-determination and illuminates why authoritarian power structures, that means capitalism, cannot resolve the crises they produce, and how to weave your personal revolts together in a collective struggle for liberation. We're going to hear what they have to say about that. I've got this one, A Step-by-Step Guide to Direct Action. Direct action means like the black bloc stuff that they do. So we're going to hear them talk about that. I don't know how much more we're going to get into. We're going to start with those 2, but then I've got this one, Breaking with Consensus Reality, From Politics of Consent to the Seduction of Revolution. I thought that sounded really interesting. And then there's this one that maybe we'll listen to this tomorrow or another time. This is actually a full-blown hour-long interview with one of them. And this was like 6 months ago. And so I thought that would be interesting to listen to as well. So all of these things, guys, are audio only. So we're basically going to be listening to audiobooks today, but we're going to be analyzing the content of those books. We're going to be dissecting them, really pulling apart their ideas. Because remember, this is the stuff that Antifa is like publishing and putting out into the world. This isn't the only organization that's publishing for Antifa stuff, but this is absolutely like an Antifa publisher. They were actually just at the... average person can testify to this. Crime Think was actually just at, in Seattle, the Revolutionary Socialists in Seattle just had an anarchist book fair like last weekend. Crime Think was at the anarchist book fair in Seattle last weekend. They actually did a tabling event there. And so we're going to be listening to what they have to say, and we're going to be digging into it. Now, guys, if you want more information about the far left, I definitely recommend you head over to my Substack. Again, it is carlin.substack.com. And if you go to the Inner Circle podcast, I'm actually doing a project where I'm covering these zines and manifestos, because what we're finding is that the zines and the manifestos from like these hardcore leftist book publishers are hugely influential on what current activists are doing. So we've got Towards the Queerest Insurrection with the Mary Nardini Gang. We've got a 3-part series on the Gender Accelerationist Manifesto. We've got the manifesto of the students who attacked the University of California Office of the President. We've got Queer Social Anarchism. And I'm going to be getting lots more of these. It's an ongoing project that I'm like just chipping away at bit by bit. And we're going to have a whole catalog where we are analyzing and dissecting this queer anarcho-communist literature, because it is the most dystopian stuff you've ever encountered. And this is what is influencing today's queer activists. By the way, James Lindsay doesn't even know this stuff exists. We know it because we actually listen to real activists. But this is showing up in the real world today. Another place you can find it on the Substack is, check this out. Where is it? Hang on. Where is it? Where is that article that I wrote not too long ago? Here it is. Bing. This one. We also saw this stuff show up recently. We found this Harvard student newspaper. Not student newspaper. This Harvard student paper that was like a policy paper at the Kennedy School of Government. And essentially in this paper, where this Harvard graduate student is arguing that all children need to be born outside the womb to abolish gender, he is specifically citing queer anarcho-communist zines and manifestos, just like we're going to listen to today. So this is not just an underground thing. This quite literally ends up appearing on Harvard the Harvard policy website at the Kennedy School of Government. So it's not an insignificant thing. This is influential. This is what's driving today's activists. No one else is talking about it. So those are some resources there that you can find over on the Substack. But let's dig in because I've been talking a lot. And we're going to start with, and I'll put this link in the chat. We're going to start with this. And I hope everyone's having a good day. I hope everyone has mounted that like button for me. And again, if you're new to me, if you're new to the channel, please let us know in the chat. If you have not listened to a lot of socialism, sometimes listening to socialism for the first time can be really overwhelming. And so we want to make sure we're helping all new people along. It's not that we don't think you're very smart. It's just that it's like learning how to speak a new language, okay? So if you're new in the chat, let us know you're new in the chat. We are going to dig into this first document from CrimethInc, and this is called To Change Everything.
Production was made in collaboration with Audible Anarchist.
To Change Everything, an anarchist appeal. If you could change anything, what would you change? Would you go on vacation for the rest of your life? Make fossil fuels stop causing climate change? Ask for ethical banks and politicians? Surely nothing could be more unrealistic than to keep everything...
Hang on. I apologize. I forgot to do super chats. I forgot to do super chats. My bad. Average person, I've been a supporter for years, but I don't understand why you won't say queer is Gnosticism. Average person. Good thing I know you're joking, average person. Good thing I know you're joking. Rottweiler says, remember that James has said Marx was a Satanist just for quoting, I'm not going to pronounce a Greek name today. Anyone with a brain knows Marx was too self-absorbed to worship him. Ain't that the truth? And then Susan M. Thank you, Susan M. James, you are always wrong. Carlin is always... Hang on. I need to get a screenshot of that. Hang on. You guys have got to allow me. Hang on. I need to get a screenshot of this. Thank you, Susan, for that gift that you just gave me. I do appreciate it. All right, back to work. No more tomfoolery. Gold Becoming says, if you're new, here's some advice. Keep your fingers off the keyboard. Just pay attention and listen. That's actually really good advice. When you first start listening to socialism for the first time, just let it wash over you like a wave. Don't fight it. Just listen. You're not going to understand all of it. It's okay not to understand all of it. Come back a couple more times. We'll teach you. It'll be fine.
The way it is and expect different results. Our private financial and emotional struggles mirror global upheaval and disaster. We could spend the rest of our days trying to douse these fires one by one, but they stem from the same source. No piecemeal solution will serve. We need to rethink everything according to a different logic. To change anything, start everywhere. Start with self-determination. The phantom of liberty still haunts a world cast in its image. We've been promised complete self-determination. All the institutions of our society are supposed to deliver it. If you had complete self-determination, what would you be doing right now? Think of the vast potential of your life, the relationships you could have, the things you could experience, all the ways you could give meaning to your existence. When you were born, it seemed there was no limit to what you could become. You represented pure possibility. Usually, we don't stop to imagine any of this. Only in the most beautiful moments, when we fall in love or achieve a breakthrough or visit a faraway land, do we catch a dizzying glimpse of all our lives could be. What limits how you can fulfill your potential? How much leverage do you have over the environment around you or how you spend your time? The bureaucracies that appraise you according to...
Does everyone that's a veteran, do you guys hear all the references to capitalism? Because every single thing is saying, she's basically saying, like, These are all references to capitalism being the thing that's oppressing you. Everyone, can people hear that? Please be honest if you can't hear it, because I can hear it and I want to make sure other people can hear it too. Yeah, bureaucracy is capitalism. Yeah, Reagan heard it. Did other people hear it? Average person, you heard the references to capitalism? Okay.
To how you follow instructions, the economy that empowers you according to how much profit you generate, the military recruiters who insist that the best way to be all that you can be is to submit to their authority. Do these enable you to make the most of your life on your own terms? The open secret is that we do all have complete self-determination, not because it's given to us, but because not even the most totalitarian dictatorship could take it away. Yet as soon as we begin to act for ourselves, we come into conflict with the very institutions that are supposed to secure our freedom. Start by answering to ourselves. Managers and tax collectors love to talk about personal responsibility, but if we took
managers and tax collectors, that's the bourgeois,
complete responsibility for all our actions, would we be following their instructions in the first place? More harm has been done throughout history by obedience than by malice. The arsenals of all the world's militaries are the physical manifestation of our willingness to defer to others. If you want to be sure that you never contribute to war, genocide, or oppression, the first step is to stop following orders. That goes for your values, too. Countless rulers and rule books demand your unquestioning submission. But even if you want to cede responsibility for your decisions to some god or dogma, how do you decide which one it will be? Like it or not, you are the one who has to choose between them. Usually, people simply make this choice according to what is most familiar or convenient. We are inescapably responsible for our beliefs and decisions. Answering to ourselves rather than to commanders or commandments, we might still come into conflict with each other, but at least we would do so on our own terms, not needlessly heaping up tragedy in service of others' agendas. Start by seeking power, not authority. The workers who perform the labor have power. The bosses who tell them what to do have authority.
That's capitalism.
The tenants who maintain the building have power. The landlord whose name is on the deed has authority. A river has power. A permit to build a dam grants authority. There's nothing oppressive about power per se. Many kinds of power can be liberating. The power to care for those you love, to defend yourself and resolve disputes, to perform acupuncture and steer a sailboat and swing on a trapeze. There are ways to develop your capabilities that increase others' freedom as well.
Hey, stop. This is unnecessary. Don't do this in my chat. I'm putting you in a timeout. You can come back, but don't do that shit again.
Every person who acts to achieve her full potential offers a gift to all. Authority over others, on the other hand, usurps their power. And what you take from them, others will take from you. Authority is always derived from above. The soldier obeys the general, who answers to the president, who derives his authority from the Constitution. The priest answers to the bishop to the
Remember, they think the Constitution is a capitalist document.
the pope to scripture, which derives its authority from God. The employee answers to the owner, who serves the customer, whose authority is derived from the dollar. The police officer executes the warrant signed by the magistrate, who derives authority from the law. Manhood, whiteness, property. At the tops of all these pyramids.
Oh! Manhood, whiteness, property. But I thought that this was just crude communism according to James Lindsay. I thought that real communists were talking about Gnosticism and some sort of bullshit spirituality, but we're listening to a document right now that was written and published literally by Antifa, where they're doing a whole introductory monologue about all the different aspects of capitalism that are oppressing the people. And what do they have right here? Manhood, whiteness, property. Because capitalism is defined as private property ownership, bourgeois property, which James Lindsay's not telling you, bourgeois property means your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, your ability to own an apartment that you rent out as a rental unit, your intellectual property, your ability to own a private business, your parental rights, and your individual liberties. Manhood is a reference to the patriarchy or the gender binary, which they believe was created by capitalism, which put men in the workplace doing all the work and getting all the money, women in the home doing the unpaid labor, raising the next generation of proletarian workers within the nuclear family. Of course, the nuclear family is also the literal means of reproduction for capitalism through social reproduction theory. Whiteness is a reference to capitalism because they believe that slavery was caused by capitalism. Capitalism, again, being private property ownership of bourgeois property. Bourgeois property means property that you own to generate wealth. Slaves, of course, are private property that you own to generate wealth. Slavery, which is private property ownership, created systemic racism. Systemic racism is not about skin color. It is about the system that upholds racism. The system that upholds racism is what? Oh, capitalism. But according to James Lindsay, this is just crude communism, and this doesn't really exist. And we should be talking about esoterics and Gnosticism and cults and stuff like that. Except that when we listen to actual Antifa is pretty clear about what they consider to be important.
Pyramids. We don't even find despots, just social constructs, ghosts hypnotizing humanity. In this society, power and authority are so interlinked that we can barely distinguish them. We can only obtain power in return for obedience, and yet without freedom, power is worthless. Start with relationships built on trust. In contrast to authority, trust centers power in the hands of those who confer it, not those who receive it. A person who has earned trust doesn't need authority. If someone doesn't deserve trust, he certainly shouldn't be invested with authority. And yet, whom do we trust less than politicians and CEOs? Without imposed power imbalances, people have an incentive to work out conflicts to their mutual satisfaction, to earn each other's trust. Hierarchy removes this incentive, enabling those who hold authority to suppress conflicts. At its best, friendship is a bond between equals who support and challenge each other while respecting each other's autonomy. That's a pretty good standard by which to evaluate all.
The reason we call out the word hierarchy for anyone who might be new is because the left believes that capitalism creates all hierarchies because capitalism creates a disparity. The have versus the have-not, the bourgeois versus the proletariat, the oppressor versus the oppressed. So the goal of communism or equity, the goal of equity is to flatten the hierarchy. So anytime you hear them talking about hierarchies, it's because equity is to flatten the hierarchy. Marxism is to flatten the hierarchy. It's to make everyone on the same level. Hierarchy is the opposite of equity. All right, Magpie, we'll get you some stickers. Don't worry about it. Should I create a print as well that you can like hang up in your house? I can do that, you know.
Our relationships. Without the constraints that are imposed on us today, citizenship and illegality, property and debt, corporate and military chains of command, we could reconstruct our relations on the basis of free association and mutual aid. Start by reconciling the individual and the whole. Your rights end where another's rights begin. According to that logic, the more people there are, the less freedom. But freedom is not a tiny bubble of personal rights. We cannot be distinguished from each other so easily. Yawning and laughter are contagious. So are enthusiasm and despair.
So again, this is about abolishing individualism. As a reminder, you cannot have capitalism, private property ownership, without having individualism, because it's individuals that own the private property. As long as you have individuals, then you will always have capitalism. When you eliminate individualism and meritocracy, you eliminate capitalism, and it means that all private property is owned by the collective. That is the goal.
I am composed of the cliches that roll off my tongue, the songs that catch in my head, the moods I contract for my companions. When I drive a car, it releases pollution into the atmosphere you breathe. When you use pharmaceuticals, they filter into the water everyone drinks. The system everyone else accepts is the one you have to live under, but when other people challenge it, you get a chance to renegotiate your reality as well. Your freedom begins where mine begins, and ends where mine ends. We are not discrete individuals. Our bodies are comprised of thousands of different species living in symbiosis. Rather than closed fortresses, they're ongoing processes through which nutrients and microbes ceaselessly pass. We live in symbiosis with thousands more species, cornfields inhaling what we exhale. A swarming pack of wolves or an evening murmuring with frogs is an individual as unitary as any one of our bodies. We do not act in a vacuum, self-propelled by reason. The tides of the cosmos.
How is the collective different than the system they hate? The system they hate is capitalism. You cannot have capitalism if you don't have individualism. If you have collectivism, you don't have capitalism. So capitalism is the opposite of collectivism. In the collective, the private property is... This is why it's so important people understand the definition of capitalism, guys. Capitalism is not an economic system. Capitalism is not you going into the store and buying stuff. Capitalism is a social system. It is a cultural system. It is about private property ownership and the creation of wealth. What they believe is if they eliminate all private property ownership, then the wealth gets distributed among the collective. If the wealth gets distributed among the collective, you do not have individualism anymore.
Surge through us. Language serves to communicate only because we hold it in common. The same goes for ideas and desires. We can communicate them because they are greater than us. Each of us is composed of a chaos of contradictions.
Hang on. I don't give a flying fuck what liberals say about any of this. I also don't give a flying fuck what non-communists say about any of this. The definitions of liberals and non-communists mean nothing to us. We do not factor them into our equation. The definitions that the far left uses do not change because liberals and non-communists use a different definition.
Forces, all of which extend beyond us through time and space. In choosing which of these to cultivate, we determine what we will foster in everyone we encounter. Freedom is not a possession or a property, it is a relation. It is not a matter of being protected from the outside world, but of intersecting in a way that maximizes the possibilities. That doesn't mean we have to seek consensus for its own sake. Both conflict and consensus can expand and ennoble us, so long as no centralized power is able to compel agreement or transform conflict into winner-takes-all competition. But rather than breaking the world into tiny fiefdoms, let's make the most of our interconnection. Start with the liberation of desire. Growing up in this society, not even our passions are our own. They are cultivated by advertising and other forms of propaganda to keep us running on the treadmills of the marketplace. Thanks to indoctrination, people can be quite pleased with themselves for doing things that are bound to make them miserable in the long run.
True.
We are locked into our suffering and our pleasures are the seal. To be truly free, we need leverage over the processes that produce our desires. Liberation doesn't just mean fulfilling the desires we have today, but expanding our sense of what is possible so our desires can shift along with the realities they drive us to create. It means turning away from the pleasure we...
Okay, so the premise of this is that we have all been programmed by capitalism via advertising to like what we like. To a certain extent that's true, right? To a certain extent that's true. There are a great many people out there that respond purely to what they're served up on Instagram or like anything they're scrolling through or things like that. So this is one of those moments where like the communists are serving us up a nugget of truth and they're about to cover it in a whole mound of bullshit. And what they're saying is, so this is going to be a queer argument, right? Queer is going to be to undermine these norms that have been served up to us by capitalism. And when you do that, you liberate yourself from capitalism and then you can expand what you find attractive and what you desire that you may have not considered before. So like fat people that you like, and stuff like that, trans people, polyamorous relationships, stuff like that. I do not care what libs are obsessed with. We do not care. It is our job to correct every single person that thinks this is about race. And by the way, conservatives are way more obsessed with race than liberals are, to an extent that is not even funny. This is a bigger problem on the right than it is with the liberals. I promise you that.
We take in enforcing, dominating, and possessing to seek pleasures that wrench us free of the machinery of obedience and competition. If you've ever broken an addiction, you have a taste of what it means to transform your desires. Start with revolt. Bigots typically blame a specific group for a systemic problem. Jews for profit-driven capitalism, immigrants for economic recession. The same way people blame individual politicians for the corruption of politics. But the problem is in the systems themselves. No matter who holds the reins, they produce the same power imbalances and petty indignities. The problem is not that they are broken, but they are functioning in the first place. Our enemies are not human beings, but the institutions and routines that estrange us from each other and from ourselves.
Our enemies are not human beings, but the institutions
And routines that estrange us from each
other. That's important. The enemy is not the person, the enemy is the institution. The institution, of course, is capitalism. And I'll say this another way. They don't care if people have white skin. They don't care if people have black skin. They don't care if people are Jewish. They don't care about any of this stuff. Socialists don't care about any of this identity politics stuff to the extent that people think they care about it. Because they believe that all of this stuff has been corrupted by the institution of capitalism. Does everyone understand this? This is why we don't care when people talk about, we do not buy into the definition that whiteness is about race, because it's not. Whiteness is about the institution.
each other and from ourselves. There are more conflicts within us than between us. The same fault lines that run through our civilization run through our friendships and our hearts. This is not a clash between people, but between different kinds of relations, different ways of living. When we refuse our roles in the prevailing order, we open up those fault lines, inviting others to take a stand as well. The best thing to do would be to do away with domination entirely, not to manage its details more fairly, not to shuffle the positions of who inflicts and who endures, not to stabilize the system by reinforcing it. The point of protest is to not call for more legitimate rules or rulers, but to demonstrate that we can act on our own strength, encouraging others to do the same and discouraging the authorities from interfering. This is not a question of war, a binary conflict between militarized enemies, but rather of contagious disobedience. It is not enough only to educate and discuss, waiting for others' hearts and minds to change. Until ideas are expressed in action, confronting people with concrete choices, the conversation remains abstract. Most people tend to remain aloof from theoretical discussions, but when something is happening, when the stakes are high and they can see meaningful differences between opposing sides, they will take a stand. We don't need unanimity, nor a comprehensive understanding of the whole world, nor a roadmap to a precise destination, just the courage to set out on a different path. The problem is control. What are the signs that you are in an abusive relationship?
They consider the police to be the managers of capitalism, the upholders of capitalism and private property.
The abuser may try to control your behavior or dictate your thoughts, block or regulate your access to resources, use threats or violence against you, or keep you in a position of dependence under constant surveillance. This describes the behavior of individual abusers, but it also goes for the IRS, the NSA, and most of the other institutions governing our society. Practically all of them are based on the idea that human beings need to be policed, to be managed, to be administered.
We can all agree that the IRS should be abolished, right? Can we all agree on that? Occasionally we find points of agreement with communists. It's uncomfortable when it happens, but we have to acknowledge that the IRS should be abolished.
The greater the imbalances that are imposed on us, the more control it takes to preserve them. At one end of the power continuum, control is exercised brutally on an individual basis. Drone strikes, SWAT teams, solitary confinement, racial profiling. At the other end, it is omnipresent and invisible, built into the infrastructure of society. The equations that determine credit ratings and insurance premiums, the way statistics are collected and turned into urban planning, the architecture of dating sites and social media platforms. The NSA monitors what we do online, but it doesn't wield as much control over our reality as the algorithms that determine what we see when we log in. When the infinite possibilities of life have been reduced to an array of options coded in ones and zeros, there will be no more friction between the system we inhabit and the lives we can imagine, not because we will have achieved total freedom, but because we will have perfected its opposite. Freedom doesn't mean choosing options, but formulating the questions. The problem is hierarchy. There are many different mechanisms for imposing inequality. Some depend on a centralized apparatus.
That was right on the nose. The problem is hierarchy with the KKK and the cops. By the way, they think the KKK and the cops are the same thing. They don't think the KKK and the cops are separate.
The questions. The problem is hierarchy. There are many different mechanisms for imposing inequality. Some depend on a centralized apparatus, like the court system.
See, look.
Others can function more.
What is happening in this photo? The cop is protecting the KKK. Everyone sees that, right? They selected this photo for a reason. The cop, which cops are the managers of private property, the upholders of whiteness, the upholders of capitalism, the enforcement arm of the bourgeois. The cop is literally protecting the KKK.
Formally, like good old boy networks and gender roles.
Yup.
Some of these mechanisms have been almost completely discredited. Few still believe in the divine right of kings, though for centuries no other basis for society was even thinkable. Others are so deeply ingrained that we cannot imagine life without them. Who can picture a world without property rights? Yet all of these are social constructs. They are real, but not inevitable.
Wait.
The existence of
Wait. Again, I was to understand. I know I'm beating this dead horse, but I was to understand based on this Twitter thread that James Lindsay posted about us earlier that all these people who just want James to say capitalism and define it as private property, we're all engaging in an analysis of crude communism, which actual communists don't support, according to James, because actual communists support Gnosticism. Except that in this video, they pretty clearly seem to be talking about property rights to me. And this is actual Antifa. This is a publishing arm of Antifa they're in Seattle. Let's listen again. James says this is just crude communism that real socialists don't actually believe in. Okay.
Some of these mechanisms have been almost completely discredited. Few still believe in the divine right of kings, though for centuries no other basis for society was even thinkable. Others are so deeply ingrained that we cannot imagine life without them. Who can picture a world without property rights? Yet all of these are social constructs. They are real, but not inevitable. The existence of landlords and CEOs is no.
Property rights are social constructs. They are real, but not inevitable. Now, landlords and CEOs. Landlords, owners of property that they rent out. CEOs, owners of businesses.
Real, but not inevitable. The existence of landlords and CEOs is no more natural, necessary, or beneficial than the existence of emperors. All of these mechanisms develop together, reinforce.
So it kind of sounds to me like they want to get rid of landlords and CEOs, right? Kind of sounds like to me that they're engaging in what James Lindsay is calling crude communism by wanting to get rid of private property, landlords who own private property, and CEOs who own private property.
Forcing each other. The history of racism, for example, is inextricable from the history of capitalism. Neither one is conceivable without.
Oh, I just came. Oh my God. Oh, that was the best orgasm I've had all week. Oh my God. What? The history of capitalism. Hang on, let's just back up. The history of racism is inconceivable without the history of capitalism. Did I get that right? Let's clip that shit real quick. Just gonna clip it real quick. Hang on. Hang on. Everyone pay up. Everyone owes me $2.
Develop together, reinforcing each other. The history of racism, for example, is inextricable from the history of capitalism. Neither one is conceivable without colonization, slavery, or the color lines that divided workers and still determines who fills the world's prisons and shantytowns. Likewise, without the infrastructure of the state and other hierarchies of our society, individual bigotry could never enforce systemic white supremacy. That a black president can preside over these structures only stabilizes them. It is the exception that justifies the rule. To put it another way, as long as there are police, who do you think they will harass? As long as there are prisons, who do you think will fill them? As long as there is poverty, who do you think will be poor? It is naive to believe we could achieve equality in a society based on hierarchy. You can shuffle the cards, but it's still the same deck. The problem is...
All right. The problem is borders. Oh, this is just getting better. This is just getting better. Hang on. Let me just create this. Get this clip. How beautiful was that clip? There's so much to break down in it. Do we have to go back? There was so much goodness in that clip. I'm just making sure it gets saved. Hang on. Thank you, Simona, my queen. I appreciate it. Bob, thank you for the super sticker. I do appreciate it. Yeah, there was a lot to break down in that. Let's go back. Hey, average person, paying up with the super chat. This, you know what? It's always incredibly validating for me when we find clips that are just saying exactly what I've been saying for years, especially on days where James is calling me an abusive psychopath on Twitter, and I'm talking about crude communism and how we're just analyzing crude communism, and then we listen to actual Antifa and it's saying everything that I said and that James doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah, it feels pretty validating to me. It does.
Existence of emperors. All of these mechanisms develop together, reinforcing each other. The history of racism, for example, is inextricable from the history of capitalism. Neither one is conceivable without colonization, slavery, or the color lines that
capitalism is not conceivable without, or racism is not conceivable without colonization, slavery, and the color lines. Colonization means privatizing collective property under the oppressive force of capitalism.
Divided workers and still determines who fills the world's prisons and shantytowns. Likewise, without the infrastructure of the state and other hierarchies of our society, individual bigotry could never enforce systemic white supremacy.
Without hierarchies, you can't have systemic white supremacy. Again, this is a reference to systemic racism, the system that upholds racism. It might also be called institutional racism, the institution that upholds racism. What they mean is capitalism. And they just literally said that. Like, you cannot, they believe you cannot separate these two. Does everyone understand this? I just want to do a quick pause. We might have some new people here today. Is there anyone who does not understand why the left believes that you cannot separate racism and capitalism? While you guys are answering that, I just want to say thank you to Raven's Poetry for the super sticker. I do appreciate it. And then we've got Kristen in with the super chat. Crime Think is almost more open than the Denver Communists. This is a golden nugget. They've got a lot of stuff, too. They've got a lot of stuff. We can keep listening to them tomorrow. Last call for does anyone not understand this? And it's okay, guys. It really is okay to not understand this. It's okay to speak up and say, I'm new. This is all new to me. Can you please explain? Because we will do that if you need us to.
That a black president can preside over these structures only stabilizes them. It is the exception that justifies the rule. To put it another way, as long as there are police, who do you think they will harass?
As long as there are police, they will harass people who are not the bourgeois property owners. On a scale of Friedman to Wolf, how fucked are we? I mean, I don't really understand that scale goal becoming, but I think we're pretty fucked. I think we're pretty fucked. Now, if people start caring and start actually fighting back, we might be less fucked, but as of right now, pretty damn fucked.
As long as there are prisons, who do you think will fill them? As long as there is poverty, who do you think will be poor? It is naive to believe we could achieve equality in a society based on hierarchy. You can shuffle the cards, but it's still the same deck. The problem is borders.
Borders!
If a foreign...
Okay, pop quiz for the chat. Why is the problem borders? Let's see if we can predict what they're going to say. Why are borders the problem? According to Antifa. And Rumble, I'm keeping an eye on your chat too, so if you're on Rumble, please feel free to chat in. I am keeping an eye on that chat as well. Yep. Borders imply property. Because borders are countries owning private property, and you can't have global equity with borders. Exactly. Borders enforce private property. Borders enforce private property. Borders equal colonialism equals the privatization of land. Yup, that's colonialism. Borders do create a hierarchy. Borders are a form of private property. Exactly. Borders denote property. It's denying, borders deny resources to the collective by privatizing the land and taking it away from the indigenous people. Borders are private property. Borders, good job, guys. Exactly. Well done. All right, let's see what they say.
An army invaded this land, cut down the trees, poisoned the rivers, and forced children to grow up pledging allegiance to them, who wouldn't take up arms against them. But when the local government does the same, patriots readily render their obedience, tax dollars, and children. Borders don't protect us, they divide us, creating needless friction with the excluded while obscuring real differences among the included. Even the most democratic government is founded upon this division between participants and outsiders, legitimate and illegitimate. In ancient Athens, the famed birthplace of democracy, only a fraction of the men were included in the political process. The founding fathers of...
Hang on. Carlin, I still don't understand, is Antifa, anarcho-communist, Marxist, or both? I would say they're both. You can be both. So, not all Marxist, communists, and socialists are Antifa, but all Antifa are, I use the terms Marxist, communist, and socialist interchangeably because they use them interchangeably. I've literally heard socialists refer to themselves as a Marxist, a communist, and a socialist, in the same sentence. So there might be nuances between the three, but we don't care about them because we care about how socialists define themselves, right? So you can be a Marxist, communist, socialist without being an Antifa. You cannot be in Antifa without being an anarcho-communist, okay? You can be an anarcho-communist without being an Antifa as well. Does that make sense? Antifa are kind of they're not the ones that are leading the intellectual discussion. They're a little bit down from that. But they are creating stuff like this, which is hugely influential on the activists. But, they're usually not high-ranking ranking such as it is. It's not really the same as normal ranking. Does that make sense to you?
Modern-day democracy owned slaves. Citizenship still imposes a barrier between included and excluded inside the U.S., stripping millions of undocumented residents of leverage over their lives. The liberal ideal is to expand the lines of inclusion until all the world is integrated into one vast democratic project, but inequality is coded into the structure itself. At every level of this society, 1,000 tiny borders divide us into powerful and powerless, security checkpoints, credit ratings, database passwords, price brackets. We need forms of belonging that are not predicated on exclusion, that do not centralize power and legitimacy, that do not quarantine empathy to gated communities. The problem is representation. You can only have power by wielding it. You can only learn what your interests are by acting on them. When every effort to exert leverage on the world must be channeled through the mediation of representatives or translated into the protocol of institutions, we become alienated from each other and our own potential. Every aspect of our agency that we yield reappears as something unrecognizable and hostile to us. The politicians who always disappoint us only show how much power we have given up over our own lives. The violence of the police is the dark consequence of our desire to avoid personal responsibility for what happens in our neighborhoods. In the digital age, when every person must continually serve as his own secretary to manage his public image, our very reputations have become external, like vampires feeding on us. If we weren't isolated from each other, competing to sell ourselves on so many professional and social markets, would we invest so much time and energy in these profiles, golden calves made in our own image? We are irreducible. Neither delegates nor abstractions can stand in for us. In reducing human beings to demographics and raw experience to data, we lose sight of everything that is precious and unique in this world. We need presence, immediacy, direct contact with each other, direct control over our lives, things no representative or representation can deliver. The problem is leaders. Leadership is a social disorder in which the majority of participants in a group fail to take initiative or to think critically about their actions.
Wow!
As long as we understand agency.
Leadership is a social disorder because it means the people in the group fail to take responsibility for being part of the good, for being good collectivists. Does everyone understand that? Why is leadership a social disorder? Hang on.
Representative or representation can deliver. The problem is leaders. Leadership is a social disorder.
Why is leadership a social disorder? Yeah, it's a disorder of individualism. Leaders can only be effective in a hierarchy. Leadership creates a hierarchy. Yep, it leads to hierarchy. Exactly. Well, we need to document that then, and we need to figure out who's who. Hierarchy shouldn't exist. Exactly. It's a hierarchy. Exactly. So what they would prefer is that the collectivists act like good collectivists. But when a leader emerges and they say, here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to do it, that is fundamentally counter to being part of the good collective. Does everyone understand?
In which the majority of participants in a group fail to take initiative or to think critically about their actions. As long as we understand agency as a property of specific individuals rather than a relationship between people, we will always be dependent on leaders and at their mercy.
Well,
truly exemplary leaders.
No, he was a man of the people. What did he do? Did he act like did Che Guevara act like he was above people? Or did Che Guevara show up and do exactly the same work that everyone else was doing? Which did he do? He didn't act like he was above people. He didn't act like he was separate from people. He was working with them. He rejected the hierarchy. Exactly. That's why they loved him. Nope, completely wrong. Completely wrong. And if that's what you think, then you need to stop typing in my chat and you need to listen. It's literally saying the opposite, bro. It's literally saying the opposite. It's saying, for the collective to succeed, everyone in the collective has to participate and be part of the collective. So it's literally saying the opposite of how you're interpreting it. You're new here. I don't recognize you. So I'm going to recommend that you ask questions instead of making statements like this, because this makes no sense based on what we just heard.
Leaders are as dangerous as the obviously corrupt, in that all their praiseworthy qualities only reinforce their status and others' deference, not to mention the legitimacy of leadership itself. When the police arrive at a protest, their first question is always, who's in charge? Not because leadership is essential to collective action, but because it presents a vulnerability. The conquistadors asked the same question when they arrived in the so-called New World, Wherever there was an answer, it saved them centuries of trouble subduing the population themselves. So long as there is a leader, he can be deputized, replaced, or taken hostage. At best, depending on
Wow.
leaders, is an Achilles heel. At worst, it reproduces the authorities' interests and power structure inside those who oppose them. It's better if everyone has her own agenda and a sense of her own agency. The problem is government.
I just want to. Does everyone understand that? They just dismantled the case for individual leadership. They said, if we have leaders, if we have this hierarchy of leadership, that's going to be used against us to destroy us. Also, that leaders reproduce capitalism. Yep. Andy knows about this. He knows I do this.
Governments promise rights, but they can only take liberties. The idea of rights implies a central power to grant and guard them. Yet anything the state is powerful enough to guarantee, it is powerful enough to take away. Empowering government to solve one problem only opens the door for it to create.
No. You need to stop talking. No. If you are, there's going to be a new rule for you. The only thing you're allowed to do in my chat right now is to ask questions. This is not a question. This is a conservative bullshit narrative talking point. This is conservative propaganda. You need to stop listening to whoever you're listening to immediately. So they oppose leadership, so they don't follow orders. Their philosophy is so dumb, a snake eating its own tail. You are no longer allowed to speak in statements in my chat. You are only allowed to speak in the form of questions. Because this is stupid. That was not what was just explained to you. If you have trouble understanding it, you need to ask a question. If you do not understand why I am restricting your ability to make statements in my chat anymore, then you need to ask a question. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, shit, you're dumb. Okay, you just got banned. See, this is going to be your typical conservative retard. This person probably came from James Lindsay's audience, if we're honest about it. This is what you can typically expect from conservatives who don't want to learn this stuff, this type of behavior. We don't allow this here. You were given every opportunity to ask questions and behave in a civilized manner, and now you're getting banned. Goodbye.
More problems. And governments do not generate power out of thin air. That's our power that they wield, which we can employ far more effectively without the Rube Goldberg machine of representation. The most liberal democracy shares the same principle as the most despotic autocracy, the centralization of power and...
Hang on. Is that why you don't hear about any bona fide leadership? There are no leaders on the left. There is no hierarchy on the left. The left is a collective. There are people who have a certain amount of status. There are people who write books. There are people who run workshops. They run educational programs. There are people who are heroes on the left, but there's no hierarchy in terms of how the right thinks of it. There's not one leader. George Soros is not the leader of the left. George Soros doesn't even fund these people. What the left does is they create basically a cadre of people that they use to coordinate across all their decentralized groups. They coordinate in the form of conferences, events, trainings, writings on the internet, anarchist sites, communiques, stuff like that. And they coordinate with each other across a wide variety of people. And if one of the people that they've kind of elevated step out of line, they just take that person out, throw them away, and they put another person in their place. There are no leaders on the left. Leadership implies hierarchy. Well, yeah, they're all opposed to the state. They call the state the capitalist state. Joe, you should know this. Come on. They call the United States government the capitalist U.S. government. They call the Constitution the capitalist Constitution. They are inherently opposed to these are anarchists. Anarchists don't want the government to exist, not as you understand it.
Legitimacy in a structure intended to monopolize the use of force. Whether the bureaucrats who operate the structure answer to a king, a president, or an electorate is beside the point. Laws, bureaucracy, and police are older than democracy. They function the same way in a democracy as in a dictatorship. The only difference is that, because we can vote
on.
about who administers them, we are
Hang on. Spaceman Dirk over on Rumble says, I don't understand how someone can maintain their own agency and be part of the collective, because you're not maintaining your individual agency. You are subjugating yourself to the collective. You're assimilating to the Borg. They believe that the only true freedom lies when capitalism is abolished and everyone assimilates to the collective. They believe that you will only be free once capitalism is abolished, so their definition is different than yours. Let me know if that makes sense or if you have other questions.
We're supposed to regard them as ours, even when they're used against us. Dictatorships are inherently unstable. You can slaughter, imprison, and brainwash entire generations, and their children will invent the struggle for freedom anew, but promise every man a chance to impose the will of the majority upon his fellows, and you can get them all together behind a system that pits.
This is not a phrase that communists use. This is a mindfulness phrase. The mindfulness has nothing to do with communism at all, in any way.
Them against each other. The more influence people think they have over the coercive institutions of the state, the more popular these institutions can be. Perhaps this explains why the global expansion of democracy coincides with the incredible inequalities in the distribution of resources and power. No other system of government could stabilize such a precarious situation. When power is centralized, people have to attain dominion over others to gain any influence over their own destinies. Struggles for autonomy are channeled into contests for political power. Witness the civil wars in post-colonial nations between peoples who previously coexisted peacefully. Those who hold power can only retain it by waging perpetual war against their own populations, as well as foreign peoples. The National Guard is brought back from Iraq to be deployed in Oakland. Wherever there are hierarchies, it favors the one on top to centralize power. Building more checks and balances into the system just means relying on the things we need to be protected from for protection. The only way to exert leverage on the authorities without being sucked into their game is to develop horizontal networks that can act autonomously. Yet, when we're powerful enough to force the authorities to take us seriously, we'll be powerful enough to solve our problems without them. There's no way to freedom but through freedom. Rather than a single bottleneck for
Freedom
all
means
agency,
freedom from
we need a
capitalism.
wide range of venues in which to exercise power. Rather than a single currency of legitimacy, we need space for multiple narratives. In place of the coercion inherent in government, we need decision-making structures that promote autonomy and practices of self-defense that can hold would-be rulers at bay. The problem is profit. Money is the ideal mechanism for implementing inequality. It is abstract. It seems to be able to represent everything. It is universal. People who have nothing else
They want to eliminate money entirely in the Marxist utopia.
in common accept it as a fact of life. It is impersonal. Unlike hereditary privileges, it can be transferred instantly from one person to another. It is fluid. The easier it is to change position in a hierarchy, the more stable the hierarchy itself is. Many who would revolt against a dictator readily accept the authority of the market. When all value is concentrated into a single instrument, even the irrecoverable moments of our lives are drained of meaning, becoming tokens in an abstract calculus of power. Everything that cannot be financially quantified falls by the wayside. Life becomes a scramble for financial gain, each against all, sell or be sold. To make a profit, that means to gain.
Bot. Did you see? So Bot has been responding to people in James's replies saying James is the one being abusive by lying to people. James's followers believe that Bot and I are the same person. They're responding to Bot calling her me. And this is a classical liberal that's doing this. Because, of course, according to James, classical liberalism believes in objective reality. And so they're, of course, making shit up that has no basis in reality because, as it turns out, Bot and I are actually two different people. Yeah, you're all me. Congratulations. Yep. Uh-huh.
More control over the resources of society relative to everyone else. We can't all profit at once. For one person to profit, others have to lose leverage. When investors profit on employees' labor, that means the more employees work, the wider the financial gap between them becomes. A system driven by profit produces poverty at the same pace as it concentrates wealth. The pressure to compete generates innovations faster than any previous system, but alongside them it produces ever-increasing disparities. Where equestrians once ruled over pedestrians, stealth bombers now sail over motorists and homeless people. And because everyone has to pursue profit rather than accomplishing things for their own sake, the results of all this labor can be disastrous. Climate change is just the latest in a series of catastrophes that even the most powerful capitalists have been powerless to halt. Indeed, capitalism doesn't reward entrepreneurs for remedying crises, but for cashing in on them.
I need to clip this. They believe that capitalism is responsible for climate change. And they just literally said that. If anyone has questions about why they believe capitalism is responsible for climate change, let me know. I need more clips of them saying capitalism is responsible for climate change, so I need to clip this for the archive.
Rather than accomplishing things for their own sake, the results of all this labor can be disastrous. Climate change is just
Actually, I want to go back a little bit, sorry.
But alongside them it produces ever-increasing disparities. Where equestrians once ruled over pedestrians, stealth bombers now sail over motorists and homeless people. And because everyone has to pursue profit rather than accomplishing things for their own sake, the results of all this labor can be disastrous. Climate change is just the latest in a series of catastrophes that even the most powerful capitalists have been powerless to halt. Indeed, capitalism doesn't reward entrepreneurs for remedying crises, but for cashing in on them. The problem is property. The foundation...
They have a whole section called "The Problem is Property." But remember, guys, James Lindsay assured us earlier today that communists don't actually want to abolish property. I'm sorry, I just need to do this because James swore. James said that Karl Marx himself was abundantly clear. That's not what communism is properly about, though. Even though he wrote in the Communist Manifesto, communism can be summarized in a single sentence: abolish private property. Marx actually meant private property was to be transcended. In his economic manuscripts, Marx explains the difference between lowly and trash, crude communism and his vision for communism, which is about positive transcendence of private property as human self-estrangement. He's pretty harsh on crude communism, too. James says that we are just analyzing crude communism. All right, back to Antifa. Because again, this is like the third time. This is like a 50-page zine that we're listening to. And this is like apparently Antifa, who published this zine, seems to believe that property is the problem. So James Lindsay might be able to spout off on Twitter because he's upset at me because I'm a better teacher about this stuff than he is, and I use primary sources that he doesn't even know about. James Lindsay can spout off on Twitter, Carlin's just teaching crude communism and is an elementary understanding of communism, and my understanding of communism as a Gnostic cult that is about transcending everything is so much more advanced than Carlin's is. Okay, let's listen to actual Antifa in the United States right now. The problem is property.
Cashing in on them. The problem is property. The foundation of capitalism is property rights, another social construct we inherited from kings and aristocrats. Property shifts hands more rapidly today, but the concept is the same. The idea of owning...
I'm sorry. What was that? And look at this sign in the building. Capitalism left this building dead. We brought it back to life. What did they say? The foundation of capitalism is property rights? I thought they didn't believe that, James. You just wrote a whole fucking thread on Twitter about how that's crude communism and real Marxists don't believe that. It kind of seems like they do, James. It kind of seems like real Marxists want to abolish private property because they believe the foundation of capitalism is property rights. Is anyone confused by this? Do we have any James Lindsay fans that are not able to follow along?
The problem is property. The foundation of capitalism is property rights, another social construct we inherited from kings and aristocrats. Property shifts hands more rapidly today, but the concept is the same. The idea of ownership legitimizes the use of violence to enforce artificial imbalances in access to land and resources. Some people imagine that property could exist without the state, but property rights are meaningless without a centralized authority to impose them. As long as a centralized authority exists, nothing is truly yours either. The money you make is minted by the state, subject to tax and inflation. The title for your car is controlled by the DMV. Your house doesn't belong to you, but the bank that gave you the mortgage. Even if you own it outright, eminent domain trumps any deed. What would it take to protect the things that are important to us? Governments only exist by virtue of what they take from us. They will always take more than they give. Markets only reward us for fleecing our fellows and others for fleecing us. The only real insurance is in our social ties. If we want to be sure of our security, we need mutual aid networks that can defend themselves. Without property or money rights, our relationships to things would be determined by our relationships with each other. Today, it is just the other way around. Our relationships with each other are determined by our relationships to things. Doing away with property would...
No, that's not what they mean. When they say property, when they're referencing private property, they mean bourgeois property, which is money that you can, which is property that you can use to create wealth. The definition of private property under these people is your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, your ability to own an apartment that you rent out as a landlord, your intellectual property, your ability to own a private business, your parental rights, and your individual liberties. That is what they define as bourgeois property. Your underwear, your phone, your computer, your dog, your car, those are not things they consider to be bourgeois property. Those are considered to be personal property. They use this to try to trick people into believing that they don't actually want to take your property. We don't want to take your personal property. We just want to take the bourgeois property. So it's important to know the difference between the two. Wait, did he actually say that?
Wouldn't mean you would lose your belongings. It would mean that no sheriff or stock market crash could take away the things you depend on. Instead of answering to bureaucracy, we could begin from human needs. Instead of taking advantage of each other, we would pursue the advantages of interdependence. A scoundrel's worst fear is a society without property, for without it, he will only get the respect he deserves. Without money, people are valued for what they contribute to others' lives, not for what they can bribe others to do. Without profit, every effort must be its own reward.
Wait.
So there is no incentive for meaningless or destructive activity.
Seriously? Did James actually fucking tweet this? It's a huge shame because if she was an abusive psycho, she'd be pretty useful to cause maybe 10% of one... Oh, okay, James. Are you fucking shitting me? Wait for it. Wait for it. Everyone needs to go reply to James and tell him to suck every dick. Where is it? Where is it? James always does this when I'm streaming. Oh, here it is. Here he is. Here he is. Got it. He's responding to himself. He's literally responding to no one. Oh, I'll put the link up. Yup, he's responding to himself. It's a huge shame because if she wasn't an abusive psycho, she'd be pretty useful to the cause. Maybe like 10% of one Chris Rufo. Yeah, everyone go respond to James. Or if James has blocked you, go respond to the people who are replying to James. I just put the link in the chat. You know what's really going on, right? James is pissed off that we've debunked his Twitter thread from this morning like 5 times with a single fucking anarchist zine. Everyone go respond to him, or the people responding to him. Be like, James, Carlin's not abusive. Carlin's telling the truth. What you are doing is abusing and gaslighting people and lying to them. I'm not the one attacking Christians and Catholics, James, and I'm not even a Christian. You're the one haranguing the religion of millions of people because you're an atheist who wants classical liberalism to take over the Republican Party. We're just going to give people a moment. We're going to give people a moment to go and respond to James, because our war with James Lindsay will continue until James bends the fucking knee. Every time he tweets about me, I'm winning. Every time he tweets about me, I'm winning. Hey, then you know what, Glenn? You are more than welcome to go and watch this content on your own. You don't have to be here. I don't recognize you. Have you ever been in my chat before? I don't really give a fuck what your opinion is on it. You are welcome to go watch this content on your own and analyze it on your own. And you can do that at the pace that you want. And you don't have to be distracted by our ongoing war with James Lindsay. You can go and do it on your own, bro. You don't have to be here. Or you can go find every other person on the internet that's doing this. Oh, wait, no one else is. It's only me. Let's see. Let's see. Ba-da-da-da-da. She's nothing more than a grifter. Oh, Jonah of Arc Griper. I love Jonah of Arc Griper. Look, James's audience. Oh, look, Jerry has my queer means Marxism image. Shout out Jerry. I don't even know who this is. Shout out Jerry with my queer means Marxism image. I made that for a piece of merch. Can you tell us on the doll where she abused you, James? You regularly abuse your audience with lies and slander. Remember, guys, if James has blocked you on Twitter, is that you, Alex? That's you? Good sock account. If James has blocked you on Twitter, just go and reply to the people who are replying to James. Yeah, I saw that. All right, let's go back and continue. You guys can have your fun with James. Like I said, he's just pissed off that we've already debunked him like 5 times in this single episode.
The things that really matter in life, passion, camaraderie, generosity, are available in abundance. It takes legions of police and property surveyors to impose the scarcity that traps us in this rat race. The last crime.
Hey, Bot, has James blocked the Carlin Updates account yet? Because now might be a perfect time to get James to block the Carlin Updates account and just start responding to him from that account. Just to get, like, it's going to get blocked at some point anyway, so you might as well just get a good punch in. You know what I'm saying? Yup. Oh, James has not blocked Carlin Updates yet? Go tell James via Carlin Updates. James, Carlin has already debunked you. Go link to the stream on Twitter. Like, retweet the stream, like, copy the link to the stream on Twitter and say, hey, James, just so you know, Carlin has debunked your thread from this morning like 5 times already in the show she's doing today. By using, and be specific about this, by reviewing Antifa literature, Carlin has debunked your thread from this morning like 5 times. Is that okay? Okay, here's what you're going to say. Bot, we're going to help you get through this, Bot. It's okay. It's okay. Take the stream and respond to James's accusations and be like, James, just FYI, Carlin is reviewing literature from Antifa, and she's already debunked your thread this morning about crude communism like 5 times. Everyone should go follow Carlin if they want the truth. Something like that.
Every order is founded on a crime against the preceding order, the crime that dissolved it. Afterwards, the new order comes to be perceived as legitimate as people begin to take it for granted. The founding crime of the United States of America was the rebellion against the authority of the King of England. The founding crime of the society to come, if we manage to survive this one, will do away with the laws and
No.
institutions of
No.
today.
As it turns out, are you one of James's audience that's here by accident? No, Bot's not me. No, Bot is a completely different person who apparently right now is really high. I wish I was really high. Sadly, I'm not. I'm completely sober. But no, Bot is not me.
The category of crime holds everything that exceeds the limits of a society, its worst and its best. Every system is haunted by all that it cannot incorporate or control. Every order contains the seeds of its own destruction. Nothing lasts forever. That goes for empires and civilizations too. But what could supersede this one? Can we imagine an order not premised on the division of—
Hey, listen. If you're joking, that's cool. Welcome. Like, we like people who joke with us. We just don't know you, and we get so many fucking boomer conservatives that don't understand humor, and then they actually do think that we're the same person. So, you know, welcome if you're joking. I'm not opposed. All right, Bot. Do you have the stream from Twitter? Do you have the tweet with that stream in it? I need you to go take that link and post it under James's reply, calling me, saying I could be 10% as effective as Chris Rufo. And go say to him, hey, James, like, what do you think about the fact that Carlin has debunked your thread this morning about crude communism like 5 times using sources that Antifa has published that you never talk about? Everyone should follow Carlin for the real news and information. Yeah, many people in the community have actually seen Bot's face.
of life into legitimate and illegitimate, legality and criminality, rulers and ruled? What could be the last crime? Anarchy is what happens wherever order is not imposed by force. It is freedom, the process of continually reinventing ourselves and our relationships. Any freely occurring process or phenomenon, a rainforest, a circle of friends, your own body, is an anarchic harmony that persists through constant change. Top-down control, on the other hand, can only be maintained by constraint or coercion, the precarious discipline of the high school detention room, the factory farm in which pesticides and herbicides defend sterile rows of genetically modified corn, the fragile hegemony of a superpower. Anarchism is the idea that everyone is entitled to complete self-determination. No law, government, or decision-making process is more important than the needs and desires of actual human beings. People should be free to shape their relations to their mutual satisfaction and to stand up for themselves as they see fit. Anarchism is not a dogma or a blueprint. It is not a system that would supposedly work if only it were applied right, like democracy, nor a goal to be realized in some far-off future, like communism. It is a way of acting and relating that we can put into practice right now. In reference to any value system or course of action, we can begin by asking, how does it distribute power? Anarchists oppose all forms of hierarchy, even currency that constitutes—
Anarchists oppose all forms of hierarchy. Okay, hang on. What I need everyone to do is I need everyone to go and respond to Bot's tweet. Thank you, Bot. I appreciate it. I need every single person here to go respond to Bot's tweet. I need you. Oh, Colin Wright. Colin Wright is calling me a narcissistic sociopath in the extreme. Look at this. Hang on. Colin Wright says, I'm a narcissistic sociopath in the extreme. Yeah, okay, Colin. Okay. Hang on. Honest dog! Look at all these people who are not yet blocked by James. Bot, where is your reply? Bot, where's the reply? Bot, did you reply to the wrong fucking thing? Hang on. Did you reply to the wrong thing? Oh no. This is why we should have put bot in charge of this Twitter account. Bot, you responded to the wrong thing! I needed you to respond to the other one! That's okay, we can still do this. We can still do this. We can still do this. Hang on. I need everyone to go to bot's response, and what I need people to do are the 5 things. I need you to bookmark it. I need you to like it. I need you to retweet it. I need you to quote tweet it. I need you to respond to it. Bot, respond to his reply while you still can, bot. He's gonna block you soon. Go and... No, it's okay. Bot, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. You get to write another tweet, but you gotta make it a good one, because he's gonna block you soon, okay? So now what we're gonna do... This is okay. Everyone's still going to amplify bot's tweet. Hang on. I'm getting back to James's stuff. Bot, I'm going to give you a link, and you're going to go respond to this one, okay? This one right here. This is the one we need you to respond to. Okay, here you go. You got to get in as many responses as you can now that you're going to be blocked, bot, okay? And I need you to say, okay, so now we've got the first tweet, and everyone's going to go and do all the 5 things, right? Bookmark, like, respond, retweet, quote tweet. We're going to make sure that this is showing up at the top of... The reason we're doing this is we need this to show up at the top of James's replies, okay? It's really going to piss him off if this happens. So now we need you to respond again. Let's see. What should we have bot say to this one, guys? We need to write her a tweet. This is of critical importance. Also, can we respond to Colin Wright? Because fuck that asshole. Who the fuck does he think he is? Calling me a narcissistic sociopath. Who's not blocked by Colin Wright? Hang on. Everyone that is not blocked by Colin Wright, go and respond to him and say something like, it is James who is the abusive sociopath who is lying to people about a Gnostic cult. Bot, it's okay. Oh, fuck. What should we have bot say? Guys, come on. Help me out here. Come on. What should we have bot say? This is important. These people are so crazy. Okay, bot, here's what you're going to say. James, why is it, if Carlin is a psycho, then why is it so easy for her to debunk you using primary source evidence from Antifa? That's what you're going to say. If Carlin is crazy, then why is it so easy for her to debunk you using primary source evidence from Antifa? Alex, you can respond with this. Dear James, it's a huge shame you can't admit you know nothing about the left or the right. While you waste countless tweets on petty arguments, Carlin is proving you wrong all day. I debunked James's entire Twitter thread in a 2-hour live stream, and I didn't even read the whole thread. Okay, bot, you got that? If Carlin is a psycho, then why is it so easy for her to debunk you? Yes, attach the stream link, please. Thank you, bot. I appreciate you. All right, we're almost done with this, actually. I'm going to rewind a little bit because we've been mouthing off about James. So we are going to be productive here.
Is entitled to complete self-determination. No law, government, or decision-making process is more important than the needs and desires of actual human beings. People should be free to shape their relations to their mutual satisfaction and to stand up for themselves as they see fit. Anarchism is not a dogma or a blueprint. It is not a system that would supposedly work if only it were applied right, like democracy, nor a goal to be realized in some far-off future, like communism. It is a way of acting and relating that we can put into practice right now. In reference to any value system or
Thank you,
course of
bot.
action, we can begin by asking, how does it distribute power? Anarchists oppose all forms of hierarchy, even currency that concentrates power into the hands of a few, every mechanism that puts us at a distance from our potential. Against closed systems, we relish the unknown before us, the chaos within us, by virtue of which we are able to be free. When we see what all the different institutions and mechanisms of domination have in common, it becomes clear that
There
our
it is, Steve.
individual struggles are also part of something greater than us, something that could connect us. When we come together on the basis of this connection, everything changes. Not only our struggles, but also our sense of agency, our capacity for joy, the sense that our lives have meaning. All it takes to find each other is to begin acting according to a different logic.
All right. That is the end of that document. That took us a long ass time to analyze because there was so much good stuff in it. Because I've been streaming for over 2 hours, I feel a little disinclined to move into the next one because the next one is also half an hour long. But do you guys want to just save that for tomorrow? Like, I think this Antifa thing is a really good way to go down. I mean, like, anarchist literature is also always fun. Do you guys just want to do more anarchist literature tomorrow? Is that what we should do? Should we go fight with James and Colin Wright on Twitter? I kind of feel like that's our best bet. It's to go fight with James and Colin Wright on Twitter. So guys, remember, if James has not yet blocked you, I need you to go into his replies and I need you to cause trouble. I need you to be uppity. I need you to be insufferable. And if James has blocked you, then I need you to go into his replies and reply to every person that's replying to him and being like, Carlin is so much better than James, blah, blah, blah. You can wordsmith. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to say. You have to use your own words. But go and defend my honor, okay? Not because I actually care if James Lindsay thinks I'm a psycho, because I think James Lindsay is a liar and a con artist. But it's fun, and it's going to piss James off. And the more we piss James off, the more mistakes James makes. If you have questions about the strategy, I need you to head over to my Substack, which is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Yes, bot, you can spam away. You want to know why? Because he's going to block you anyway. So spam away. Spam to your heart's content, girl. Do it. And look at this article right here. I need your help to expose the agenda of the far left. This is going to give you specific instructions about what to do on Twitter in order to amplify tweets. We need you to bookmark it, like it, retweet it, repost it, quote tweet it, leave a reply on it. Currently, we are enacting all of these strategies against James. Let's go in and get Bot's tweet that she just sent. Reagan, you got to reply into Colin. Okay, we got to find Bot's tweet. And guys, go in and do all this stuff with everyone that's defending my honor in James's replies. Go in and do all this stuff. Elevate all of them. Okay, here's Bot's tweet. If Carlin is a psycho, then why is it so easy for her to debunk you using primary source evidence from Antifa? I need everyone to go in and do all the things to this. Bookmark it, like it, retweet it, quote tweet it. Reply to it. That's going to elevate it, and it's going to get more views on it, and it's going to piss James off. And pissing James off currently, Bot, I don't know why. Oh, is this me doing this? This is me. Look how meta this is. Look how meta this is. Wait, how meta can we get? How many me's are going to show up if we just sit here? There's already 4 of me on the screen right now. 5? How meta can this get? Wait. Are we going to get another one? Are we going to get 6? 6! I'm not even high and I'm amused by this. I am my own collective. I'm my own collective. always wanted. I'm everywhere all at once. It's true. It's true. I'm everywhere. All right, that's enough tomfoolery. That's enough fun. All right. Guys, I will be back tomorrow for happy hour for Friday. I think we're going to keep listening to this Antifa stuff. In the meantime, what you want to do is head over to the Unwoke art store, pick up some sweet, sweet merch. I've got a whole anti-communist line for Halloween. Let me show you the 4 designs in the anti-communist line. We've got them on t-shirts, we've got them on sweatshirts, we've got them on pint glasses, we've got them on mugs, we've got them on stickers. We have Marxism is coming for your soul. We have collectivism, looking like an old school horror movie poster. We've got everyone is equal until they're not. And we can see Judy got this. Judy got this in gray, which I was questioning whether or not the gray was going to look good. I thought it was going to look too drab, but I think it does actually look good. So these shirts are available in different colors. And then we've got the most popular one so far, the Marxist Utopia of the Dead. All of this is part of my special edition Halloween anti-communist collection over in the Unwoke Art Store. They're only available in the month of October. And while you're there, pick up a yard sign, because the yard sign is rad. The yard sign is awesome. The yard sign is unmatched, and look at that. We're seeing yard signs show up in the wild, and it's going to be great. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. Oh, look. Take a picture, Alex. Our mugs just showed up that everyone is equal in Utopia of the Dead, taking those straight to the office and donating them to the cupboard. Oh, a little subversion. I love a little subversion. Awesome. Take a picture before you do, though, because I want to see them. All right, guys, I'll be back tomorrow for happy hour. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for engaging in tomfoolery and shenanigans to expose and debunk the ridiculousness that is James Lindsay's Twitter feed. But remember, guys, I'm a dangerous, narcissistic psychopath, sociopath, and you probably don't want to associate with me because I'm a dangerous, narcissistic psychopath and sociopath because I sit here and I watch primary source documents about socialists on the internet, and I interpret them and explain them clearly and teach my audience more than anyone else on the internet does. But remember, that's just because I'm an abusive, narcissistic, psychopath, and sociopath with borderline personality disorder. Wait, did Konstantin Kisin call me a grade A psycho? Are they all attacking me? Wait, are you serious? Are you serious? Is this my birthday? Is this Christmas? Is this everything all rolled into one? Hang on. Can you send me a link, average person? Oh! Yo! I got all 3 of them! I got all 3 of them triggered! I've got Konstantin Kisin triggered, that asshole! I've got James Lindsay triggered. I've even got Colin Wright triggered. I'm sure Colin Wright's bitch girlfriend is also triggered as well. Christina Buttons. I am dangerous. Remember, I'm dangerous because I bring primary source receipts and none of them like it. They all claim to be classical liberals. Hang on. Let me just look it up here. Hang on. Konstantin Kisin. We'll go. Oh, that's not his Twitter account. God. All right, hang on. Let me get into the DMs on my Twitter account. This is great. This is like Christmas and my birthday. All rolled into one. Average person, I don't see a DM from you in my Twitter account. Can you, average person, just post it in the chat. Literally just post the link in the chat. You're a mod. You can do that. Oh, wait. No, never mind. I found it. I had to reload. This is great. Everyone's so mad. Everyone, why don't these people want me teaching about Antifa? Why don't any of the classical liberals on Twitter want me teaching? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this all on a fucking t-shirt. Constantine! Go respond to him right now. Look at this. I've got all three of them in a row? Holy shit. Have I achieved like a Nick Fuentes level of infamy? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, seriously. Seriously. Who else besides Nick has all of the classical liberals on Twitter calling them a psychopath? Yo, this is the Carlin victory tour. I've pissed off all the classical liberals on Twitter by using primary source evidence to teach people about the left. Why can't Konstantin Kisin use primary source evidence? Why can't Colin Wright use primary source evidence? Why can't James Lindsay use primary source evidence? All of them are just complaining all day, every day. We won. We already won. Like, this is fucking great. Do we need to stay around for a little bit longer and do a strategy sesh? What are people tweeting? Bot, here, I need you to take a screenshot of all of this. Hang on. Bot, I need you to take a screenshot of all of this, of the whole thing. And I need you to tweet from the Carlin Updates account. James Lindsay, Colin Wright, and Konstantin Kisin all called Carlin an abusive narcissistic psychopath for showing primary source receipts about the left. Just, I need one big screenshot with all of them in it at the same time. From the Carlin Updates account. Does that make sense? Everyone's got to participate in this. I'm going to take a picture right now. Hang on, I'm going to put a banner on the bottom of the screen so that, I'm going to put a banner on the bottom of the screen so I might, accidentally show information I don't want to show. This is fucking great. This is fucking great. Oh, shit. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. Actually, hang on. Hang on! Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. All right, I'm taking a screenshot of all three of them at once. Calling me an abusive psycho. I got all three of them in one picture, bot. I'm going to DM it to you, okay? I'm putting it in the reply guy chat right now. This is like so fucking awesome. Like, I can't even. Dreams do come true, guys. Dreams really do come true. Okay. And I need you to tag them all in it, bot, okay? So here is the tweet. Here is the tweet. Breaking news. James Lindsay, Conceptual James, Colin Wright, Swipe Right, and Konstantin Kisin, his name, his handle, all denounce Carlin as a dangerous, narcissistic, psychopath, sociopath. If all the like some because for showing primary source receipts that debunk their narrative. That's the tweet. Hang on, bot. I'm going to type this in the chat. Breaking news. Actually, bot, I'm going to type this in the reply guy group, okay? And I want everyone to be responding while we're doing this. We're doing basically a work project right now. Breaking news. James Lindsay, Conceptual James, we're tagging all of them. Colin Wright, Swipe Right, and Konstantin Kisin all denounce Carlin as a dangerous, narcissistic, psychopath, sociopath, because she uses primary source receipts from the far left to debunk their classical liberal narrative. Make sure that all fits in one tweet, Bob, but basically that's what I want you to say. Now you can just copy and paste because I just put it in the reply guide chat. Hey, Chris, you made it. Chris is in Florida. Chris, I hope everything's okay. All right, we are rapidly losing audience. Oh, did Poetry Painter make another? Who gives a fuck about that bitch? We're having too much fun. Again, guys, I need everyone to respond to Constantine Kissin with whatever response you want. I need everyone to be going into the replies to like everyone defending my honor, like retweeting everyone defending my honor, bookmarking everyone defending my honor, quote tweeting people defending my honor, replying to people defending my. You don't need to quote tweet all of them, but definitely reply to them. Like, do all the other things, because I want the replies that these people get to be like, I want our stuff elevated in the replies. Yeah, think like the Groypers. Think like the Groypers. This is our moment. I have never had the big three classical liberal assholes denouncing me all at once in a single fucking Twitter thread for telling the truth. How many views can we get on this? So you also need to respond to Colin Wright. I don't want to hear any complaining. I want everyone doing all the things. You need to respond to James's initial tweet. And I need you responding to James's follow-up tweet. And tell them all to suck an egg. Or wordsmith it and be more pithy about it and be appropriate. I don't really care. I don't care if you tell them to suck a dick. I don't care if you say, why can't you handle primary source evidence from Antifa? Carlin was streaming 2 hours today about primary source evidence from Antifa. Why are you guys calling Carlin a psycho for showing us primary source evidence from Antifa? This doesn't make any sense. Does anyone have questions? Yeah, they're all attacking me at the same time. They're all in some group chat. They're like, fuck that Nazi bitch. I'm like, I'm not even a Nazi. Like, hang on. Did I post the image in here? I did. Okay, good. I'm going to tweet this out too. Hang on, I'm about to tweet this. It's because they're labeling me as woke right. That's exactly right. Thank you, bot. All the classical liberal cucks are mad at me. Is this what it's like to be Nick Fuentes? Oh my God. Oh no, all the classical liberals are big mad. I guess this means I'm over the target. Bullseye. I guess I'm infamous. This must be what it's like to be Nick Fuentes. This is what it's like right here. All right, that's really all I have. I want everyone raising hell on Twitter. I want everyone defending my honor. And let's just have fun. Because this is legitimately hilarious. It's like, these people, they could be exposing their audiences to actual Antifa. They could be teaching their audiences what's actually going on. Instead, what are they doing? Engaging in bullshit and nonsense on Twitter, because none of them are smart enough to deal with the stuff we deal with, guys. None of these people know what's going on. None of these people have any clue. They all make money from lying to people. If all these people are mad at me, I'm doing something right. So that's all I've got, guys. Thank you for hanging out. I'll be back tomorrow for happy hour. I hope you guys have a good day. And you know what? Let's go out with a song. Let's go out with a song, shall we? Let's do a song.
Piper, change, deceiver. Your life is a million. You're why we lose. Piper, James, great deceiver. You're living in delusion, and you're why we lose. James Lindsay spinning tails, got a fantasy in play, pocketing that cash while he's leading minds astray. Milfs for liberty, he's cashing in the bucks, but his logic's out of whack, man, it's all just muck. Left hates capitalism, he's blind to the facts. Queer theories misunderstood, it's a different attack. Destabilizing norms, breaking down the walls, but James blocks the truth, man, he's lost in the halls. Piper, James, great deceiver. Your lies are weak, we're calling out the truth. Piper, James, great deceiver. You steal from us, yet you're still deluded. Echo chamber stick, it's a bubble of deceit. While he's pocketing the green, we're exposing the cheat. Leonardi drops the mask with a bang. For liberation means capitalism, that's the goal. Stop blocking the truth, James, open up your eyes. Our theories misunderstood, capitalism's a pride. Destroying the old norms, shaking up the steam. Face up to reality, stop the serial line. James, great deceiver. Your lies are weak, we're calling out the truth. Piper, James, great deceiver. You steal from us, yet you're still deluded. Echo chamber stick, a bullet in hell. Whiteness, capitalism, it's all intertwined. Queer theories, the lens, but you're way behind. Liberation means capitalism's gone. Jump, change, the lies will cost us the war, that's the price. No property, no house, no business, no money, no parents, no rights, no life for us all. Socialist reality built on your lies. Piper, James, great deceiver. Parents follow your advice, kids pay the price. Piper, James, great deceiver. You hold up the curtain, cover the less temptation. Piper, James, great deceiver. Your life in millions, you're why we lose. Piper, James, great deceiver. You're living in delusion, and you're why we lose.